this session on the long-term athlete development. This is also referred to as long-term player development in some instances. So within this session, we're going to look at what is long-term athlete development, why we implement and use long-term athlete development, key principles, and then investigate the 7 stages and how they implicate you as a coach. So what is LTAD? In simple terms, it's intended to produce long-term approach to maximising individual potential and involvement in sport. Okay, so it's around that, what we're going to do from point A to become that elite athlete to get people involved in sport and staying in it, whether it's at elite level or participationary level. So in looking at when we should organise and start youth sport, it would be naive to categorically state exactly when a child should start participating in particular programmes, and we've looked at that across all the topics we've looked at in previous sessions in terms of their growth, their readiness, their cognitive readiness, their maturity, and all those key things. So as we've kind of depicted, that readiness depends on individuals across different activities. However, there are guidelines about overall readiness and the best practice for kids to grow and mature. So what we need to consider when we're developing this long-term athlete development model is obviously the nature of the sport and activity that they're going to be doing, and obviously their own developmental process. So another definition and explanation of this long-term athlete development model is that it refers or offers a developmentally appropriate systematic progression of activities for individuals to follow to optimise their skill development and physical literacy. So this is Barley et al. 2013. And what you'll find is quite a lot of research has been done by Barley across the board in terms of physical literacy and long-term athlete development. The long-term athlete development model includes 7 stages that prescribe developmentally appropriate goals and activities for individuals at each of the stages. So this model aligns itself to all of the things we've discussed in previous sessions. So why long-term athlete development? It identifies current gaps in the sports systems and provides guidelines for problem solving. It's a guide for planning for optimal performance for all stages of athlete development. It's a framework for full sport alignment and integration. So we're looking at integrating different structures and pathways in sport. It is designed as an empirical, practical coaching experiences based on scientific principles. So it's not just someone's gone, let's put together this model. There's a lot of research based on the practical side of things, but also scientific information and research that backs up this model. So the long-term athlete development model has been developed and is used across the board in many sporting organisations. The terminology used within each of the stages may differ slightly, but in principle they're the same things. So this is an initial model which looks at 1 being the fundamental stage, 2 the learning to train stage, 3 the training to train stage, 4 the training to compete, 5 training to win, and then 6 retirement and retainment. In addition to that model, as you can see here, we've got the Canadian Sport for Life model. So the terms and the stages are very similar, but they just use different language. So there's 7 stages: active start, fundamentals, learning to train, training to compete, training to win, and then active for life, rather than that retainment terminology. So focusing on this model, as you can see, some of the topics we've looked at in previous sessions fit and align to this model. So the active start, fundamentals, and learning to train is around developing those key competencies and physical literacy. The training to train, training to compete, and training to win stage is around more of the excellence and performance side of it, which we haven't really touched on in great detail. We will be moving on to some of these topics when we look at talent ID and talent identification and development. The final stage is the active for life stage, so the long life term physical activities. We'll try and get people active into their adulthood and later years. So here's a review of these stages to help you establish some of the broad guidelines about the readiness for kids' various sports activities. So the active start stage is from birth to the age of 6. So the emphasis within this stage is around play, exploration, the fun to basic mastery of movement skills, and it can be in structured as well as unstructured free play, and is aimed at developing the fundamental motor skills, gaining physical confidence, and establishing joy and associated with movement and activity. The fundamental stage is from age 6 to 9 in boys and 6 to 8 in girls. Children should continue to develop these fundamental motor skills, particularly skills involving agility, balance, coordination. As the name suggests, it should focus on still the fun, but also then some informal competition could be introduced, but in a minimal way. Learning to train, this is from age 8 to 11 in girls and 9 to 12 in boys, or until the onset of growth or their growth spurt. This is a stage involves developing the foundation of those key sport skills. However, the emphasis is still on acquiring a wide range of skills, as early specialisation at this stage should be discouraged, in particular with some of the key sports. Obviously, there's some sports which we're going to discuss within this session and later on around early specialisation. It is also recommended that more time should be spent on training, so 70%, and then smaller doses of competition, around 30%. The next stage, train to train. This stage is designed for children in their growth spurt, which generally is between 11 to 15 years for girls and 12 to 16 in boys. This time is right for beginning to increase training due to the kids' physiological responsiveness, so they're now physically ready. They should continue to improve their sport-specific skills and acquire more advanced tactical strategies, but also enhance their aerobic-based speed and strength. Process and improvement are emphasised over results in competition, meaning that more focus should be on the skill training and physical development and less on trying to win. Training should be around 60% and actually on that skill development, and then obviously 40% on that competitive environment. Training to compete. This focus is around the optimal skills or sports skills, learning how to compete. Athletes can either choose to specialise in one sport and focusing their development on and their talent on this sport. They may then continue kind of recreationally to kind of take part in other sports and enter the active for life stage. But at this stage, the focus should be on one sport in particular, looking at the competition and competition-related training such as scrimmaging, playing games, and so forth. 6% on that, and then 40% on training and practice. Training to win, this is obviously the stage for elite athletes with identified talent who wish to pursue this most intense training, which is suitable for international competition and major events. The training process in this stage is part of it, but as winning is the highest level is the focus. Obviously, we've looked at the key stages. People may reach at different points of these stages and exit or stay within that stage. The other stage that we're going to need to look at, which is the active for life stage. So young athletes can enter this stage at any age, but once they become physically literate. Hopefully they have the fundamental movement skills and confidence and knowledge to remain active for life in a variety of physical activities. So in overview, the long-term athlete development model recognises both participation and performance-orientated pathways in sport and physical activity. So it's looking at those fun movement skill-based development, so that physical literacy. The first three stages emphasise these fundamentals needed for physical literacy, followed by more serious training and commitment to sport and physical activity. The approximate age ranges, are kind of discussed, but there may be slight differences depending on, individuals, based on their ability, maturation and chronological age, but not chronological age. Okay, what I'd like to do now is a task. What are the shortcomings and consequences of sport systems? So what I'd like to do is have a think about the following questions and jot down some ideas. What are some of the shortcomings that you can identify through your involvement in school, club and sport in general? So it may be lack of talent identification, could be an example, or poor coaching. Have a think about some of the things you've experienced. And then ultimately, what are the consequences of these? So as a result of that, what happened?